We continue to give you reaction on that Public Protector report pertaining to President Cyril Ramaphosa and the Phala Phala farm saga. We are now joined in studio by ATM President Vuyo Zungula for more on this issue. Of course, Vuyo, last year this time it was you as well as the DA that wrote to the Public Protector. What is your reaction to what you have seen now in that report, where it clearly says that the President has been cleared of any wrongdoing?
Look, this report is a betrayal of the function and the mandate of that institution. Remember, the Chapter 9 institution, which is the Office of the Public Protector, was set up to basically protect citizens, to protect the state from powerful politicians who will abuse their power for their personal enrichment or to further their personal goals. Now, what we have here, we have got the same thing that happened when it comes to the Waterkloof scandal, whereby it is officials that will be blamed, whereas the instruction came from a political office bearer, in this case, the president, because it is the president that called Mr. Wali Rode, the president that instructed Mr. Wali Rode to actually investigate or take some actions based on what happened on his personal farm. Therefore, it cannot be that Mr. Wali Rode will be the one sanctioned, whereas the person that gave the instruction is going to be presumed to be innocent. So
your take is that it was indeed Wali Rode who was not supposed to report this crime, like we see now in this report?
Look, Section 34E of PRECA lists the different individuals that are supposed to report any crime or any theft above 100,000 rands. And part of those people is the members of the close corporation. Now, that close corporation that Mr. Ramaphosa has, he's the only sole member there. Therefore, and that theft happened on his farm. Therefore, the responsibility to report the crime is a responsibility of Mr. Ramaphosa because he's a sole member of the CC. Therefore, you cannot pass the responsibility to Mr. Wali Rode because the farm manager informed the sole member of the CC. The sole member of the CC ought to have said to the farm manager, go and report to the nearest police station, follow the protocols, because we can't act as if whenever there's a car that is broken by Phala Phala or anything that happens, Mr. Wali Rode is going to be involved. It is basic. In fact, it is common sense that whenever something happens in that farm, the farm managers will have to deal with it in accordance to what they are employed to do. But in this particular case, it is Mr. Ramaphosa that involved Mr. Wali Rode. Mr. Wali Rode did not involve himself on the private affairs of Mr. Ramaphosa.
And what is your take on the remedial action which is now being directed to the President's PPS unit?
Look, again, it is shifting the responsibility from Mr. Ramaphosa as the political office bearer to Mr. Wali Rode. And it always happens in our countries whereby officials will always take the blame, whereas those officials are always acting under the instruction of the political office bearers. Also, another issue here that is blatantly clear is that Mr. Ramaphosa, this report says there's no evidence of active involvement of Mr. Ramaphosa in the day-to-day affairs of running that particular Phala Phala farm. Whereas Mr. Ramaphosa says in Limpopo, he's actively selling animals. He says to the independent panel that he, as Mr. Ramaphosa, knew potential buyers, meaning when he goes to the Middle East, he goes to Africa, he will also engage about his private affairs. And it defeats the purpose now, because the purpose of Section 92B of the Constitution is there to prohibit members of the executive to have divided attention between their official duties and their private affairs. Therefore, based on the evidence that everyone could see, Mr. Ramaphosa was using his time to further his business interests, whereas he's employed by the government to be the president of the country.
And the legal analyst, we actually just spoke to my colleague Flo there, actually agrees with you with that particular issue, coming to the issue of paid work at Phala Phala farm here. And he says that the president needs to answer for that.
Indeed, because the acting public protector says it is business interest, and she makes a comparison to someone owning shares in a company. When you own shares in a company, you just have business interests. You do not have any decisions that are taken as to who is appointed in the board, who gets to be employed, etc. Whereas the evidence that is there in this particular case, Mr. Ramaphosa went as far as even saying money must be moved from the safe to a couch. The animals that need to be sold, it is this particular parcel. Mr. Ramaphosa was actively involved in the day-to-day operations. Therefore, it cannot be that we are going to have a public protector that is going to ignore all of the evidence that is before her in terms of what we submitted as opposition parties and what Mr. Ramaphosa confessed, because there's a confession. He spoke in Limpopo and he confessed to be actively involved in selling animals. That is a confession that he is involved in the day-to-day operations of that farm.
Some are accusing, some political parties actually are accusing the public protector of actually protecting the president here. Do you agree? Do you think that the president is being protected here?
Look, it is a well-known fact that the current deputy public protector wants to be the next public protector. And having said that, the power to determine the next public protector lies in the organization that is led by Mr. Ramaphosa. Therefore, it may appear that she thought about making sure that she crafts a report that will make her to be in good favors with the political powers that have the power to actually make or not make her to be the next public protector. In our view, we view her actions in terms of this report as a betrayal of that office, because that office ought to protect the citizens and the constitution from being violated by political powerful people like the president.
And because of that, you are taking this issue on judicial review. Tell us more about that.
Yeah, we've already spoken to our lawyers. We are preparing papers as we speak, because it is our view that if we allow this to happen, it means any person that occupies political office will basically get away free from even committing the most heinous of crimes. Because if a president violates the constitution is the one document that ought to bind each and every one of us. We may disagree politically, socially, and otherwise, but when it comes to the constitution, you would expect that the head of state, the number one citizen, is the one that must protect the constitution, not to violate the constitution. Therefore, when you're going to have now a deputy public protector, actually protecting a president who's clearly violated the constitution, then we've got a problem in our country.
And where does this place the independent panel report? Because, it said that, that the president may have something to answer to. And this is a report that was compiled, by, retired judges.
That report, number one, put aside the experience of the retired judges. Also, their mandate was to determine if there's any prima facie evidence. They would not have come with the conclusion that indeed there's wrongdoing. Wrongdoing would have come from the Committee of Parliament that would further investigate the matter. As we sit here now, that report still stands. There is no institution that has overturned that report. The fact that Parliament violated Section 42 of the Constitution, because Section 42(3) of the Constitution mandates Parliament to actually scrutinize the actions of the executive. Now you've got a report that has been penned by an independent panel that says there's a case to answer, and Parliament must further investigate the matter. Now, when Parliament decides not to investigate the matter, they've actually violated Section 42(3) of the Constitution, because they are mandated to scrutinize. As we sit here, Parliament has not done any work in terms of scrutinizing the actions of Mr. Ramaphosa in relation to Phala Phala. But that report has not been overturned by any court of law. It is a report that is still standing. This one, Deputy Public Protector, we are going to challenge it and it's going to be overturned. But that one, there's not even Mr. Ramaphosa. He did not even want to go to court to actually challenge that report, because should he do that, the courts will affirm that he has violated the constitution.
This report, as we head into the 2024 elections, where does it place the president? Surely plays a very crucial role, especially going into the elections next year.
Look, it means that, number one, you've got a president and the ruling party, because we cannot disassociate the ruling party from the president, because the ruling party protected the president from being investigated. In December last year, we wanted to set up a committee that will further investigate. the ANC said, our presidents, they are above the law, they must never be investigated. So what that means to South Africans, that when they vote for the ruling party, they are actually making abantu to think that they are above the law. They are going to use whatever powers they have to actually not to be held accountable, because in their view as the ANC, they are actually above the law. And we would want to remind South Africans that if they want rule of law in our country, they want public representatives to be held accountable, then voting for the ANC actually goes against that principle of accountability.
Of course, there's also another investigation being conducted, and that's the investigation by the Reserve Bank. As the ATM, what is your expectation of that report, now that we've seen the Public Protector report?
It's going to be very difficult to have high expectations of these institutions, because from your SARS, your Reserve Bank, even this Deputy Public Protector, all of them, they want to further their careers in public service. And Mr. Ramaphosa is central to that, because it is him that holds the powers to appoint them, either as public protectors or anywhere else in terms of public service. That is why the independent panel gave a credible report, whereas these other institutions, they are trying to do everything in their power to protect Mr. Ramaphosa. Because our laws are very clear. Number one, if you trade in foreign currency, in fact, if you have currency in your possession that is above 25,000, you need to deposit that within 30 days. That did not happen. It's not rocket science that. The second issue is that foreign currency, or the US dollar, is not a legal tender in our country, meaning you can't trade in foreign currency. But Mr. Ramaphosa traded in foreign currency. Even SARS confirmed that they've got no record of that foreign currency coming to our country. But you will never find them saying that, therefore, because of these violations, Mr. Ramaphosa has committed a crime or has violated some sections of the law, because they are protecting themselves and they want to grow in terms of their careers. So that is why we as the ATM, we've put most of our trust on the independent panel, and we are going to take this particular report and the actions of the Reserve Bank and SARS to the courts for further scrutiny.
And what do you have to say to those who are saying that, well, you won't accept the report because this is just politicking, and you won't accept that this is a credible report by the Public Protector?
Look, common sense dictates that if a person has put himself in a risk of a conflict of interest, all South Africans can see. If a person is supposed to report a crime and he did not report a crime, all South Africans can see. Here, the nice thing about this report is that South Africans know exactly what is happening, and they know the hogwash of a report that has been presented by the Deputy Public Protector. Therefore, it is not just people playing politics, but it is common sense that dictates that the Public Protector should have came to a conclusion that Mr. Ramaphosa, as a sole member of a close corporation, should have reported the crime. He did not do so. Mr. Ramaphosa, in his own words, confessed to have been actively running a business. The Deputy Public Protector says he did not do anything that is in violation of Section 92B of the Constitution. That is why, in our view, we view this as the ATM as a lesson to South Africans that they must continuously read and continuously hold all of these Chapter 9 institutions accountable, because should that not happen, they are going to create and write reports of this nature, because they are trying to protect people that they are expecting favors from in the near future.
What precedent does this set in our country with this report from the Public Protector?
It means if you occupy public office and you are the president of the country, you can basically get away with anything, because you cannot, Wenambali, have a case whereby the facts are there. We're not talking speculations here. It is a well-known fact that there was close to 700,000 US dollars that were found in the farm of the president. A police case was not reported. And also another factor here is that the alleged robbers, Mr. Ramaphosa confirmed that indeed there was theft on his farm, but none of those robbers have ever been arrested, because they know that once those robbers are arrested, some truth will emanate when they are in court as to how much was actually there. and what actually transpired there. So to have such things that are going to happen and the facts are all for everyone to see, and you are going to have a deputy public protector that will actually undermine the intelligence and the common sense of South Africans, it sets a very, very bad precedence, because it means if you occupy public office, then you are going to be protected, and that is what you are against as the ATM.
Mr. Vuyo Zungula, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.